All right, so welcome everybody. I'm super excited to be here today with Da Chen, who's presenting work on behalf of his co-authors O, Zhigang, and Han. And their paper is coming out in the June 2024 issue of the Journal of Advertising Research. And it's titled How Virtual Reality Can Increase Effectiveness of Pro-Social Advertising. Put yourself in the donee's shoes, the effect of virtual reality on charitable donations. Yeah, so thank you very much for being with us today, Da. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Very excited. So to start us off, there's some people who probably have not yet read your paper, and so I'd love to have you tell us a bit more about, what it is that you investigated in your article, and then also what you found as well.
Okay, cool. We found that presenting public service advertising, PSAs, through VR promotes donations more effectively than traditional 2D video presentations. And this is true both in terms of the proportion of people who participated in donations. As indicated in our study, there are about 20% increase of donors when the ad is presented using VR compared to that traditional 2D video. And the actual amount donated, which is about 46% increase when the ad is presented using VR. This is because VR offers a more immersive experience, allowing people to have a vicarious experience that triggers a higher sense of guilt, which in turn promotes donations. This is what we found.
That's super interesting. So, I mean, you're seeing both more donations and also larger donations as well too.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
That's quite cool. So, what do you think is causing this? What do you think is driving this effect that you're seeing? Yeah.
I think, to be honest, like we understand that some people in life, they have difficulties, but VR allows us to uh, put ourselves in their shoes to experience what they experience. And this actually, triggers a higher sense of guilt when we see that, okay, this is what they experienced. So this actually drive them. This actually drive the donors to donate more. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like an increased sense of empathy and sort of just understanding that comes from it.
Yeah, understanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So the results are impressive. I mean, like getting more people to donate and also getting larger donations as well is really important and really kind of a neat finding.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the big question I've got is when it comes to advertisers using this, right? Like, how do you think they can adopt this? Because I know being able to run VR ads, of course, depends people actually having VR headsets and using them. So,
Yeah.
like, tell us a bit more about how you think these your findings can be used by those in the ad industry.
Mm, okay. I think advertising companies designing PSAs, those public service advertising, can consider creating VR PSAs if their budget allows. I'm saying it because, sometimes the companies may have to spend more money in creating the VR than the total money donated. But we believe that as the time goes by and the cost of creating VR ads may reduce a bit. Um, and also because VR can help consumers put themselves in the shoes of those facing difficulties, enabling to them to better understand the tough situations these people are facing and thus promoting pro-social behavior. Um, um, also, I think some environmental protection companies can also design PSAs to allow people experience from the perspective of an animal, such as a lion experiencing the habitat loss. Um, Also, even I think even the government can design PSAs to educate people on how to respond to, for example, natural disasters such as earthquakes.
Mhm.
Um, um, for example, how to escape from the earthquake, etc., etc.
Right.
So it can
Yeah,
be
no.
adopted in a variety of ways. Like I said, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's quite cool. Yeah. So I think so I guess it's probably still sort of limited because there's not a ton of people who necessarily have or use VR headsets a lot for content consumption. But I think as those numbers, probably will climb in the future, it
Mm.
sounds like your results are, suggesting that, people who are putting out PSAs or soliciting donations should probably be early adopters of VR. Is that right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Or
yeah. It's a
yeah.
matter of the
That's cool.
cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, which I'm guessing will
Yeah.
probably come down over time as well too.
Yeah, yeah,
But
sure.
interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about where you got the idea for this particular article as well too. I always find it interesting where people get their inspiration from or where they come up with an idea.
Sure. Initially, our team has always been involved in VR related consumer research. We happened to come across a Chinese VR PSA that allowed people to experience a day in life of someone with color blindness.
Oh,
We
cool.
found this idea very creative because although we all know what color blindness is all about, it's hard for normal people to truly understand the real feelings of those with such difficulties.
Hmm.
Without experiencing their challenges firsthand, especially on the first person perspective, we can't really understand them well. So, and also currently there are no clear solutions to that problems in practice. So we wish to test out whether VR can really help us achieve this. And fortunately, we found that this technology could be used for PSAs to help us better understand these people in need. Plus, our research team found there's also a lack of literatures exploring how VR affects donation behavior. We all find it very interesting. We talk about this every day among the colleagues, and that's how the idea for this article emerged.
That's cool. Yeah. So from first-hand experience and seeing something that really, was powerful for you folks, and then, wanting to test that and see if there's actually something behind that. So that's quite interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, other big question I always like asking the podcast is just like what challenges you might have experienced. I'm guessing there might have been some. I don't know. Most papers seem to have some, but any challenges you might have experienced when you're going through and working on the article. Because I think sometimes, when we look at that final article, it seems so polished and almost looks easy, but there's often a lot of work and challenges that go into it. So did
Yeah,
you experience
indeed.
any in yours?
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. There was a lot of tough work. I remember there were some difficulties implementing the experiment because unlike questionnaire or behavioral experiments, which are relatively simple and people understand that straightforward, we need to use VR equipment.
Mm,
So we had to teach participants how to use it. And the experiment was conducted in collaboration with a public welfare organization at their
mm,
site. Many of the participants were regular donors, and they kept asking questions. How do I use this? What this is supposed to function, or et cetera, et cetera, which made the entire implementation process time consuming. That's the main challenges. It takes a lot of
yeah.
time explaining all that to the participants and clear out their issues. And also, but we believe that when VR becomes more common in people's lives, these problems will be solved naturally. Another challenges we had was when conducting the small follow-up experiment, comparing the effects of VR um, of a VR version to a 2D video version of a third-person pro-social advertisement called The Story of Nisha, which we wrote in our manuscript. Um, we initially wanted to make two versions of this ad, one in first-person perspective and the
Mm,
other in third-person perspective, to test out whether vicarious experience would be stronger in the first-person perspective. However, our team actually lacks the techniques as well as fundings to make the same VR ads, but with different perspectives. Um, Although we found that when using third-person advertising materials, VR may still yield effects similar to those observed in the primary study, it lacks the direct comparisons between the two different
mm.
perspectives. So we hope our future work may find a way to tackle it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I know I've definitely heard as well that like running VR experiments can be very time consuming, just having to put everybody through individually, right? It can take quite a bit of time. So thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. And the other big question to sort of round us out is like where to next, right? So like, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, alluded to it with your last comment, but like where do you think the research should, next examine, or what should the research next examine in this area? Yeah.
I think we will continue explore this field, and we now focus on the pro-environmental consumption.
Mhm.
We are actually conducting a study to explore the impact of VR on people's pro-environmental consumption. Um, we found that VR can significantly increase individuals' pro-environmental consumption attitudes as well as
Mhm.
buying. And this effect was mediated by the inclusion of nature in self. So which means that how people feel how they attach to nature. Um,
Mhm.
and we also found that people's green values acted as a moderator in our mechanism, such as only individuals with low green values um, may be influenced by the mediating process of VR on pro-environmental consumption. We have completed the draft of manuscript and hope to submit to JAR at a later time, only if you're interested, Colin. I'm joking.
We're always open to have stuff being submitted, right? It's always good to, give it a whirl. Yeah.
Okay, 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 cool.
Cool. That's interesting. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, your article is out in the June 2024 issue for anyone who's interested in taking a look at it in more detail. Thank you again for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Colin.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.